All right, who's your third guy?
My third guy is from the same draft in Philadelphia, Mr. Maxey,
Oh,
Tyrese
wow.
Maxey, who I think I've been kind of thinking about who the next, who the next Tyrese, who the next Halliburton is, the next Fox is, who's the next young guard who's going to take a jump from being a good young guard that everybody knows has upside to being like an established all-star, an established playoff performer. And Tyrese Maxey had a great performance in the Nets series. He was average 24 a game. Overall during the year was 43% from three, 60% true shooting. Obviously, the James factor is going to play a role in this, whether he's back or not. I'm kind of assuming in this calculation that he's not going to be back, just based off of reporting and things like that. So if he's not back, they're going to need him to step up, basically, and they're going to need him to make a jump like those other guys made the jump. I think he can do it. You've raved about him for the last couple of years. It feels like you probably think he can do it too. But this will be us seeing it for the first time. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I like that call. And look, we don't know what's going to happen with James. Similar, at least the reports are similar to the Damian Lillard situation. These guys are giving their teams one option. James is saying, "I want to go to the Clippers. I want to go to the Clippers," and so we don't know how that's
it's not a good option to trade.
Yeah,
they have nothing to trade.
Right. So it's like I who knows what happens in camp, right? Who knows what roster shows up for the Philadelphia in the 76ers. And I said this when Doc was fired. I said, to me, the primary objective, besides getting out of the second round and getting, deep playoff run, potential championship, obviously winning, but the primary objective, like what do you have to work with in Philly? The primary objective to me is figuring out how to max out Maxey. Figuring out, all right, how good can this guy be? By all accounts, and obviously I know people in Philly, by all accounts, he's a great kid. I know him a little bit, spent some time with him at the white party. I know him a little bit, but he's competitive, works his butt off, great dude, great teammate. And in 3 years, he's been awesome, right? The last 2, he's been spectacular. I do wonder about him going into next year with no extension. If he ends up getting an extension, like I'm like, all right, whatever. Maxey's Maxey. He doesn't get an extension. Does that mess with him? Does that press?
Yeah.
If he doesn't get an extension, does that motivate him? Like there's a little bit of the human factor, I think, going into next year, particularly if James comes back and ends up playing, and he's playing a similar role. So again, there's all this stuff, everything we've talked about so far. There's so much fascinating nuance, right, to all of this. But I like the Maxey call a lot. My last guy is Luka Doncic. Look, I think really for the first time in his career, he started to take some shots, right? Whether it's from the media, whether it's from NBA Twitter, he's out of shape, doesn't hustle back on defense, talks to the refs too much. What's the difference between him and Trae Young? That came up over the past week. And if you've followed him at all on social media, guy's working. He looks slim. He looks trim. Every picture I see of him, he looks like he's in the best shape.
He's engaged and skinny.
Look, is Luka ever going to be 4% body fat and just totally jacked and ripped like Giannis? No, he doesn't have that body type, and he never will. But I think on the margins, improving that. And here's the other thing, right? Some of the reason that he's working like this is because Slovenia is playing in the World Cup, and that gives him an opportunity to play basketball, take a little bit of time off, and start camp, right? So he's going to come into camp in great shape. He talked about it last year. He didn't come into camp in great shape. And that, I think that showed early on. But also the reason I really like this is because of what Dallas did this offseason. And re-signing Kyrie was step one. They had to do it. But then all the stuff they did on the margin, right? They drafted Prosper. They traded up. They traded for Prosper. He's a defensive prospect. He actually had some great moments in summer league. Derek Lively, brought Dante Exum back, signed Grant Williams, brought in more shooting with Seth Curry, re-signed Dwight Powell, traded for Rashawn Holmes. So now all of a sudden you have that vertical lob threat that Luka needs to play with. So the team around him makes a lot more sense than last year when they lost Jalen Brunson, when they did the trade midseason, lost their best defender in Dorian Finney-Smith, and their defense just absolutely cratered after that trade. So I think the motivation is there. Oh, and by the way, he got engaged. Yep. So that, there's just like I talked to him the other day. He's in a good place right now. And Luka is not a guy who's like, I've made 4 first-team All-NBAs in a row. I'm content. No. He's competitive as they come, and he wants to win. And I think what Dallas has done is they've built a roster around him and around Kyrie that actually makes sense on paper. And we'll see how it plays out. But the two of them together, figuring out how to play with each other in a limited span last year, getting a full training camp, Luka coming into camp in shape. I think Luka's poised, as good as he's been. I think Luka's poised for an outstanding season and an outstanding season of winning basketball, which gets me excited.